Good morning, and welcome to this episode of Let's Talk Faith. I am so happy to be here this morning with this great group of men that are on my stage today. Today's topic is why aren't men in the church? We understand that only 39% of the churches across America is the makeup of men. So that's only 61% of the churches that are filled with women. So we want to ask this question today: why aren't men coming to church? I have three wonderful guests on the show today. I have Elder Quay Parker, I have Brother Troy, Minister Troy Lundy, and I have Pastor Rashad Singletary on this show today. Welcome, gentlemen, and thank y'all for being on the show today.
Good morning.
Thank you.
I'm going to start with Pastor Rashad Singletary with this question of, where are the men?
I would say that the men are traumatized by a reality that we talked about earlier that is lacking credibility. It's difficult for men to be a part of something that has no validity to it. It can be spiritual, but where's the natural, I would say, where's the natural representation for everyday living for especially black men? Mm-hmm. The fantasy of God is wonderful, but where's the reality of God? So I would say, on that line, I would say most men are traumatized by church.
Troy?
I would agree with that, in that we have a situation now where there's so much information out there in the internet that, just in casual barbershop talk with the fellas, you find that these guys are eating from so many different plates, and right now, in all honesty, they don't know what to believe because they're getting information and being fed from so many different places. Many of the conversations inside the shop end up into, well, which portions of the Bible is real from what's not. What about the lost books of the Bible? In addition to the credibility issue. So, you have a credibility issue. The second issue you have is they got spiritual indigestion for those who even have some appetite, for the word.
Brother Quay? Brother Quay?
I don't think there's a good reason.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we've come up with reasons. And I think of the Kirk Franklin song, Why We Sing.
Mm-hmm.
And it brings me to the why do we come? Why do we worship? Why do we praise? I think a lot of people have been in church, have participated in church without an understanding of why we are in church. And because they don't understand the reason, they can easily assume that we're supposed to be doing things that are not necessarily our godly assignments. They get upset that we're not involved in certain political agendas. They're upset that we're not involved in certain philanthropic ventures. But the purpose of the church is to bring people into salvation. But if you're dealing with people who don't understand the purpose, they can easily think we've lost our way.
So could you, is it safe to say that because we don't understand our why, we won't understand our way?
Absolutely.
The why and the way. Let's talk about that a little bit. The why and the way. So what is the why for a man? Rashad, what is the why for a man?
As a 31-year-old man,
Yes.
My why is going to be different than a 64-year-old man.
Right, of course.
And it all
of
has
course.
to deal with culture.
Mm-hmm.
In the 70s and the 60s, that's all you had was church.
Mm-hmm.
Now you come to my age group, millennials, where we had a choice to go to church. Church was not the foundation of the household. And so, for me personally, the reason why I went to church was because I always had a tugging in my spirit. Mind you, now that's the churchy way to say it.
Yeah.
But for a young man who might be 31, who has never had any foundation of church, he's simply looking for an answer.
Sure.
Going back to what my brother said, a lot of times it's the fact of they are looking for something. But because there's so many fragmented views of what God is, it's difficult and it convolutes why we come. So those are different things I think about when we talk about that.
What do you say, Quay? What do you say, Troy? The why.
When we look at the why, I think we need to take a step back and understand that, a lot of the times the people that we're trying to bring through the doors are people who have never even they've heard about Christ, but they've never had an encounter with Christ. So these are people that's coming from the natural world, and we're trying to We're trying to show them the spiritual way. But, the first thing they see is something natural.
Yes.
So when they walk through the doors and they see 80% of the women, inside of church, if they're not looking for a wife, well, and, they see all of this hyper-emotionalism, as a young man, and even as a married or an older man, he says, listen, man, I see a lot of this at home already.
Right.
So the question is, what's in it for me? What's
Yes.
in it
That's
for me?
good.
Because if I'm going to come out here, there has to be something in it for me so that I can walk out here with something in my pocket or something in my heart that I can use and apply to my daily life the very next week.
Wow.
If you're talking about anger, teach me something, give me a tool that I can use and deploy that very next week.
Yes.
So the why will be different for everyone.
Yes, it
And it's based on, age, what's going on in their lives. But, we have to understand that, these are people that's coming in and seeing things from the natural perspective. And if they see something that's a turn off from the very beginning, they're going to shut down and turn around and head out of the doors.
Sure.
What about you, Brother Quay?
I think most men are spiritually immature in the fact that they're coming for what they can get without a clear idea of their purpose in God and where they should be going. So you're looking for essentially church to be daytime programming, where you're getting solutions to 7 ways to fix your marriage, or 5 ways to enhance your career, or 10 ways to happiness. But essentially the role of the church first is to really enhance that number one, that first foundation, or that first group that God gathered, which is family. And you can't be the priest of your household unless you know your place in God. So the purpose of church, and most people miss this, is not to get your own feeding for the week, but in order to get the word to give and be that in your family and your community. So if you're not looking at it as this is what I need in order to give, then you're just looking at what are my pragmatic fundamental needs that church can serve. And you've missed the big picture.
Wow. Because, and really it goes on to what, biblically, what even how God established Adam.
Yes.
Adam was already working in his purpose when he made one man. So is it safe to say, we could discuss this topic all day, is it safe to say that some men ain't coming to church because they don't even know what their purpose is?
Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
Well, I want to go back to what you just said. How Adam was working. He didn't realize he needed Eve. I think one of the other problems, too, that we find that men are working so much that they don't know they need God.
Yes, and
That's a good one.
You know what I'm saying? They're so busy trying to make sure that they're keeping everything in order at home, that why am I coming to church? Okay, if I come here and I get a word, that's cool. But once again, if there's nothing that's attractive to me, because we're visual. So if I come into church and I see something that's traumatizing to me, when I say traumatized, I'm just talking about things that mentally and emotionally stimulate in a negative way. If I come to church and I don't see anything, I don't feel anything that connects me, then there's no need for me to come. I've got more responsibility to work to provide than to waste time to come and never get anything.
But the original intent
Right.
for man, not talking about the woman, because she didn't even get named after they got kicked out of the garden.
Right.
The original intent for man was a relationship with God.
yes.
Adam had a relationship with God before he started working for God.
Yes.
If you think,
Yes.
before he started naming all the animals, before he started attending to being a good steward of the garden, he had a intellectual, emotional, spiritual relationship with God where they
Yes.
communicated, and we don't even know what language they communicated in.
Pastor, now
Yes.
we're living in post-Eden.
Oh, yes, we are. Because sin, by one man's offense, sin enters the world. We understand that.
Absolutely.
But can we get back to the original intent that God created man was to have relationship with him in order to find out his purpose? And then when he found out his purpose, then we understand how we're supposed to be the priest of our household.
Yes.
What y'all think about that?
I think we can. I think we can. And there was a word that you said that really triggered a thought in my mind, and that word was relationship. Relationship. We have to build relationship. We have to build bridges into the lives of our brothers in order to bring them in. You know, almost like a frangelism type thing, friendship evangelism. You know, you going over, coming over to help you move.
Hold on, did you say frangelism?
Frangelism.
I ain't never
Friendship
heard,
evangelism.
I ain't never heard that word. I love that word.
You know, friendship evangelism. You know, hey, listen, and it's important.
It is.
It is
it's
important.
Very important.
We have to build those bridges. When I know that I can count on Quay to come and help me move because I'm moving out of my apartment, you know, week after next, then when I have a crisis in my life, because we have that relationship,
right?
You know, I would call on Quay and Quay say, "Hey, would you pray with me?" And the next thing you know, Quay has me, you know, moving along into the church. You know what I'm saying? So it's going to take that relationship. It's going to take us building relationships and building bridges into the lives of our brothers.
So how do we break down, because society tells men that they're not supposed to be emotional. How do we break down that barrier? Because when you have a relationship with God, it's going to cause some emotions. And how do you make a man comfortable in expressing his emotions? Quay, want to kind of
logic is based in emotions. We can say that we're intellectual. Men are the most emotional people on the planet. We are. Our egos are more fragile than women. Let's be real. And this is we mask it in the facade of masculinity.
Yes, we do.
And bravado, but the reality is we're very emotional. But we're not focused on the outward display of emotion. What we're looking for is the emotions drive us to get results or do something. And I think we can put the emphasis on the pew environment here, but we have to then deal with what have we done to maybe stop them from being here.
And let's talk about that.
If they don't know their purpose, then we fail to communicate it. Because I think we put the culture of church in front of the reality and purpose that God has for people in their lives. And they can't appreciate it because they then can't connect with it. I think if you look at any man, we talk about emotion, you look at any man when he looks at his children, there's emotions associated with it. You go to any football game, there's emotion associated with it. The difference is there's an understanding. We have to comprehend before we can connect.
So how do you get a man to comprehend then the necessity of a spiritual walk? How do you get a man to comprehend that?
I think that is only accomplished through the vehicle of, again, that word relationship. That word relationship. Because, you know, I can begin to talk to young men or men inside a barber chair about their need and the relationship with, to have a relationship with God. But it's only because I've built a relationship with them over the years or over time. When you approach me on the street and you know, want to talk to me about, now I'm going back to all of that stuff that I've seen on the internet, all the arguments, and you know, we know that wars have been fought over religion. You know, one of the things that guys always, you know, I hear guys says, well, you know, I don't believe in organized religion. I say, Christ doesn't want you to have religion. He wants you to have a relationship.
Yes.
Wow.
There's a big difference between religion and relationship.
Yes, it is.
And when you begin to, you know, dive into that and explain and begin to dismantle some of the arguments that, you know, that they would put up, now you've disarmed them and you says, okay, so now what's your excuse? Yeah, am I going to see you on Sunday? What? Yeah, I guess you're going to see me on Sunday, Brother Troy. But, you know, it takes relationship.
Yeah. And I'll go back to what you're saying as a relationship. When you look at how Jesus maneuvered,
Yes.
Jesus always built a rapport. Jesus always gave a natural resource, which then opened up the person to then receive what he had. I think a lot of times we jump the gun too fast because we want to get results, but we don't want to do the work building the rapport with the person. You know, we have to build relationships with men. We have to, even from the pulpit, as preachers, we have to be able to be vulnerable, to be transparent and not naked. See, the problem is some people
Ooh. Say that one more time.
You struck a
got-
nerve, man. You said vulnerable?
Yeah.
No. Vulnerable, but you say you got to be
you
transparent.
got to
Right, that's
vulnerable enough to
transparent.
be transparent,
But
but not naked.
Not naked. Woo.
Because when you are transparent, you allow people to come into an intimate space. But when you're naked, you expose too much of yourself that turns that person away. When Noah's son came in and he was drunk, his son couldn't take the fact that his father was drunk and naked. He came out. Because a lot of people can't deal with who you are intimately. But if you know how to discern how to minister and to build a rapport with the person, man, yeah, I know what you're going through. I've been through that too. They're not thinking we have, because before we put the persona up.
Right.
This is how it is. Every day with Jesus gets sweeter as the day before.
I got it all together.
Now, what does that mean? No, I don't have it all together.
Right. And it don't get sweet.
Right.
It gets sour.
Yeah,
It's all right.
Right.
You know?
There's suffering. We talked about this earlier. There is suffering before the prize.
Right.
How can I ever experience recovery if I've never lost anything? And that's the concept that as men, sometimes we don't understand. But I'll go back to this with Jesus. Well, Jesus used a lot of natural parables to open up spiritual things. It also took him 3.5 years to develop 11 men. Because the one still didn't want to do it. Took him 3.5 years to develop 11 men. And those 11 men took years to develop the next set of men. Timothy, John Mark, Barnabas, Silas with Paul, Peter, James, they all had their crew. So how do we in the church today get to 12? Go ahead.
I think we have to look at it from multiple angles. I think we've addressed it from the practical perspective of meeting the needs of men and the relationship, which allows you to meet them in their fundamental, obvious needs. Like we talked about someone moving, and it's obvious. But I think it's easy to get people to understand. I don't think if you really have a conversation with most men, they can deny a spiritual presence. There are things in your life you're dealing with that you can't rationalize. You can't rationalize why you're winning in life, you're living where you want to live, your family is succeeding, but you feel like you want to hang yourself at night, where things just don't make sense. I think we've just gotten so spooky and so churchy that people can't get to the cross through the congregation. And if we start dealing with the fundamental...
I'm sorry. Woo. That's
true.
real.
That's true.
That's
real.
real.
Wow. Wow.
If we start dealing with the fundamentals of that which you can't rationalize, that which you can't feel, that plagues you, is spiritual. Let's deal with that. I don't care if you're an atheist. How do we deal with that? Now that we deal with the fact that this is real, what are you going to do about it? Because when we deal with men, we're dealing with deeply rooted issues. We're taught to display strength. But if you listen around America, the problems that plague men are due to brokenness in ways that we can't go to anybody but God. Men want refuge. They want relief. You can look at the bar stools. They're looking for escape. But have we presented Jesus as a solution, or have we presented church as entertainment?
Hey, if you're not watching this morning, it's getting heavy.
I mean, we don't need to be entertained. I got 300 channels.
It's heavy. That's heavy.
Right.
Wow.
So if you give me entertainment, I can get that home.
Exactly.
See, for a lot of people, I think church is the preferred genre of entertainment.
It is.
Wow.
It's nothing beyond that. It's their preferred genre of entertainment. They like gospel music, they like church.
Right.
But what's the purpose? They can't communicate.
It goes back to the why.
Yeah.
Back to the
Wow.
It goes back to the why.
And when we can get to showing people the purpose, you ask, will we get back to it? We have to. Because if we don't get back to it, then that means the plan for humanity that God created was a failure.
Yeah.
And that can't happen.
That can't happen.
That can't happen. The question is, will we be the ones who dropped the ball on our watch?
Wow.
And will our
Wow.
children have to pick it up?
Wow.
Or will we say we did our part?
Wow. Wow.
Goes back to what I've always said: impact versus intent.
Yes.
And
Yes.
to his point, that's why I believe that the Lord allowed a COVID-19.
Yes. Yes.
We have been pushed out of the walls.
Yes.
We
Yes.
now have to figure out how do we get back in the walls and not
Yes.
be stuck by them again.
Yes.
An Oedipus complex.
Yes. Yes.
Oedipus complex.
And we get to see that a lot of what we're doing is redundant, and a lot of what we're doing is not really effective.
It's not.
We're forced to deal with that now.
Do you see how many preachers have no substance now?
Ooh.
Audience?
Well,
You can't.
You had to preach to an empty sanctuary
Yeah.
from March to
Right.
June.
Ain't nobody saying nothing to you. Nobody.
Nothing.
nobody's
Nothing.
saying amen.
You
Go
had
ahead.
stuff.
Nothing. And so if you don't, if you weren't called, if there's no substance to your ministry, when church does reopen, you're going to see what the Bible says, a vast falling away.
Yes.
Right? Because now my ears are itching because what you used to give me, it doesn't do anything for me now because I've gotten over the entertainment. I need where's the substance? Because I've been at home unemployed. You know, I'm trying to figure out how am I going to do this next. Okay, how is Jesus a relevant redeemer? How is he? And if we can't give people that answer, if we can't show people how he is, then once again, that now falls through our hands, and now the next generation has to bear the weight from generations before who couldn't show how Jesus was relevant redeemer.
Wow.
Now there's 3 generations of responsibility on that generation to now go back and hopefully kill off every generational curse from that one, because there was nobody who could be the example for those last 3.
Wow.
Troy.
Wow. To answer your question, I think if we approach this from a marketing perspective, I think you basically are going to have to develop a marketing funnel, right? And we talked about this before in the past, where you're going to have to be like Jesus and feed them first, right? And then in that second phase, begin to address those things that Elder Quay were talking about, where we get down to the real. Okay, now that you've been fed, now that your rent has been, dealt with, tell me what's really going on. Why
Yes.
are we having all of these false starts? Why are we having all of these other issues that's plaguing you in your life? And let's begin to look at that and see if we can find and identify how Christ can help you and pull you up from that situation that
Yes.
you're in. But there's no one silver bullet. There's no one approach. It's going to take a conglomerate of or a multitude of different approaches, because the thing that will reach you will not be the same thing that will reach you.
Yes.
So we can't use one marketing or deploy one tactic and think it's going to work for everyone. It's not.
Yes.
It's just not. We're going to have to draw off the wisdom of the 12,
Yes.
Yeah.
of their life experiences,
Yeah.
so that they can each one reach one.
Because the 12 had different personalities.
Absolutely.
To reach different people.
Totally.
We got a few minutes left, and I want each one of you, if you were in a room full of men right now, whether they be churched, unchurched, backslidden, halfway in, halfway out, if you was in a room full of men right now, what would you say to them? I'm going to start with Rashad.
This might seem very elementary, what I'm going to say, but I think the first thing I would say is they're accepted. Number 2, they're forgiven. Number 3, where do we start? And those 3 would build on the conversation.
The thing that I would say to them is, they're watching us. Our wives, our children, our parents, the folks out in the community. And the question is, what are you doing? What are you doing? Are we going to continue to falter and flounder and struggle under the weight of what society has pressed upon us? Or are we going to, get down on our knees, repent, and ask for the help that we truly need? But, you know, if the kids are going to do exactly what they see us doing.
Yes.
So if we don't lead the way, then who will? You know, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want my grandchildren, you know, wavering out there, you know, in the street and in society, lost, not knowing Christ. So I want to be the example. I want to set the path. I want to chart the course so that my kids, my wife, my children, and my brothers, some of them will even jump on board and say, you know what, you a man's man.
That's
you know
it.
what? And I don't want to
Yes.
hang out with you. I want to go to church with you. I want to go to fellowship with you. I want to pray with you. I want to cry with you. I want to help build that basement with you. You know what I mean? Because we are community.
That's it. Quay?
I would look to them and say, I wish I had the luxury, or wish we had the luxury of meeting Jesus before we met the church. But since we don't, I want to tell you that this is not about coming to church. This is about reconciling your life
Yes.
with a God that died not for you to be a part of a congregation, but died for you to have life more abundantly. And if you have voids in your life and you have those things you just can't understand, there's one person, one man, one entity that has the answers to all of those questions that can give you peace that goes beyond your understanding. And that's what I would say to them.
You heard it right here on Let's Talk Faith. Men, I want to encourage you. You are the priest of your home. You take control of your life. If you're missing something, if you're looking for something, if there's a void in your life, that is a spiritual gap that only God can fill.
Yes.
I hope and pray that you have heard something that strikes a nerve, or that just ask some questions to somebody. But you are the priest of your house. Fulfill your purpose and do what God is telling you to do. Because your sons, your daughters, your wives, your girlfriends, your business partners, your co-workers, they are all looking at you to be the priest of your home. God bless you. Remember this. I want to say this. This conversation is going even further live on September the 30th at 7:30. We have a full panel of guests coming again. We're going live. We're gonna cross the ecumenical community and have Muslims and Jehovah's Witnesses and Apostolics and Kojics and Baptists all on the same stage to discuss this same issue. And also, too, you can participate, man, this Saturday at 10 o'clock, 1,000-man march in Annapolis. You can participate. The 1,000-man march at 10 o'clock in Annapolis. If you want to meet here at the church on Saturday at 8 o'clock, we will meet you here and we will go down to Annapolis and participate in the 1,000-man march for social justice. We will stand together with clergy and participate in the 1,000-man march. God bless you, and may his grace shine upon you, and may he give you peace in the time of your storm.